The inaugural Miami Grand Prix is over and Mercedes finally had a weekend they can be proud of. The car is improving. They were easily the best of the rest in the field. Hamilton seemed to be racing well again, and they now sit comfortably third in the Constructors' Championship. But for Mercedes boss Toto Wolff, that isn't good enough, and he's thinking of a drastic car swap before the next race. Lewis Hamilton also isn't happy as his frustration grows at his team. Despite Mercedes' good weekend, are things going to continue getting better for them? Let's find out. The first ever Miami Grand Prix got a mixed reception, but for the Mercedes team, they couldn't have hoped for a better weekend. During the early testing sessions, George Russell was able to show his pace and top the timesheet on Friday evening. Unfortunately, the young Brit didn't manage to bring the same pace on Saturday and ended up qualifying 12th, missing out on Q3 by just under 0.2 seconds. While Hamilton didn't have the same speed as George in testing, he grew into the track and qualified 6th just behind ex-teammate Valtteri Bottas. The two are rivals once again this season, though now they're in different cars. It seems that Bottas is able to challenge Hamilton more than he ever could while at Mercedes. The two fought for position throughout the race, and Hamilton came out the eventual winner. It'll be a great battle to watch throughout the season, and many fans will be happy to see Valtteri Bottas flourishing at his new team. Despite Hamilton's superior starting position on the grid, it was George Russell who eventually crossed the line first for the Mercedes team. His 5th place finish was a well-earned reward for an excellent day's racing, and the young driver extended his top 5 finish streak to 5 races in a row. Hamilton was frustrated by being beaten by the man who was meant to be learning from him this season. But let's talk about Russell's performance first. Despite his strong race performance in Miami, Russell feels a rethink is required ahead of next year's return, notably with regard to the track's surface, which has raised safety concerns. "It was really difficult to race around this track," said Russell. "I don't know what they've done with the tarmac, but offline it's awful. I almost crashed coming into the pit lane. We requested to get the pit entry blend line removed, and it was a shame not to see that implemented. It's strange because every other new track, they generally offer really high grip, really good racing on and offline. But here, something went a bit wrong. They need to do something. It's a safety issue. It just does not offer good racing. You can't go side by side with a car around the corner as there's just zero grip offline." Russell wasn't the only driver to have issues with the track though. The track surface may not have been great, but it was also very bumpy in places. The fact it was essentially a parking lot for the Hard Rock Stadium a month ago showed, and even with the fake marina and beach, the place didn't have the luxury feel that you expect from an F1 race. It was so bad that the teams complained about the quality of the Paddock Club Experience tickets, for which cost $14,000. If the teams are complaining, you know it's bad. While the track may not have been up to scratch, George Russell did have some compliments to pay to his car. Mercedes cemented its position as the 3rd best team this season. Whilst Mercedes' progress from Friday into Saturday was halted by a bad setup change in a bid to secure additional downforce, Russell feels progress was still gained that could prove to be pivotal by the end of the year. "We've known all along that there's a fast racing car there. We just need to try and unlock it," said Russell. "We don't really understand why it's so unpredictable." Toto has thrown the word diva around, and I think that's a bit of an understatement. P5 and P6 is where we deserve to be. For sure, this is where we've shown the most amount of promise, but we're a long way off still. We need to keep on analysing. I think this weekend might turn out to be one of the most important weekends when we look back. Data analysis is something Mercedes have been going on about a lot recently. They like to take their time and make sure they're making the best decisions possible. When you're ahead, it's a great way to play, as you have the luxury of time while the rest of the field try to catch up. But this season, they don't sit at the top of the timesheets thanks to some poor design choices that led to them suffering more than anyone else on the grid from porpoising. Partly to blame is the team's no-pod side-pod design that shocked the F1 world when it was revealed in the second preseason test in Bahrain. Mercedes have said they were so confident in how good the no-pod side-pod design was that they basically wasted the Barcelona test, but now Toto Wolff isn't so sure about the design. They opted to race the zero-pod design in the opening 5 races of this championship, but it's said to be hindering the team's efforts to resolve their bouncing. As such, Wolff admits that in time they could revert to the fatter side pods. "Well, I wouldn't discount anything," he told the race, "but we need to give all our people who have produced great race cars in the past the benefit of the doubt, and we believe this is the route to go down. Barcelona is definitely going to be a point in time when we're able to correlate with what we've seen in February and gather more data. I'm also annoyed by all always saying the same thing a lot, gathering data and making experiments. But it's physics, not mystics. Despite considering a swap to a more conventional side pod, team boss Toto says that the data they have says that the no pod design is the faster choice. Mercedes may also be thinking that they've spent so much money designing and building and trying to improve this design that they can't make the switch this season. With the reduced budget cap and the insane costs involved in F1 car design and construction, rebuilding the whole side pod design and everything else that is aerodynamically affected by the change may just be too much this season. We're not looking at the lady next door and if we like it more or not, because it's still good, Wolff said. As a matter of fact, we need to understand, before you make a decision to switch to another concept, where did this one go wrong? What is the goodness of the concept? What is the badness of the concept? Hopefully for Toto Wolff and his design team, they can learn from their mistakes and get back to their winning ways soon. Speaking of people who want to get back to winning ways, Lewis Hamilton had another frustrating weekend. He qualified and finished 6th in Miami, but feels that his team made mistakes that meant he was unable to do better. The battle between him and George Russell towards the end of the race was a highlight from an otherwise uneventful race. It's the 4th race in a row that Hamilton has been beaten by George Russell, and it's starting to get to the 7-time world champion. On lap 50, Russell managed to overtake Hamilton to claim 5th place, but exceeded track limits in doing so and had to give the place back. He then passed Hamilton again at the same place on turn 11. George's race engineer was encouraging him to attack the entire time, showing that Mercedes aren't going to be favouring Hamilton anymore this year. And why would they? With George Russell now 23 points ahead of Lewis in the driver's standings. Hamilton said in Imola that he thought his race strategy held him back from performing better, and videos of him and Toto Wolff arguing inside the garage appeared earlier in the season, when Lewis was highly critical of the team over the radio after a qualifying session. Hamilton's frustrations have started to spill over into the media now, and after the race in Miami, he vented to Sky Sports about some of the decisions his team made for him, or didn't make for him during the race. Hamilton was asked to decide if he wanted to stop under the safety car that was caused by Lando Norris's collision with Pierre Gasly. The Briton was baffled by the team's lack of clarity, and the decision made eventually cost him a place to Russell, who made his first stop of the race on lap 41. In that scenario, I have no clue where everyone is, so when the team says it's your choice, I don't have the information to make the decision, Hamilton said. That's what your job is. Make the decision for me. You have all the details, I don't. That's what you rely on the guys for. But today, they gave it to me and I didn't understand it, he added. It was just a bit unfortunate on the safety car, but at least we got points today. We're finishing and reliability is good. We just have to keep trying. It's no wonder that Hamilton is frustrated at his team. In the middle of the race, it's impossible for the driver to know the right call to make. He doesn't know how close the cars behind are or how old their tires are. He doesn't know where he's going to come out in the running order and whether he'll be able to take over the people in front. It may be that his team were just asking for some insight into how his tires were holding up, but when the 7-time world champ is already frustrated with how he's doing this season, perhaps there's a better way for them to ask. Whatever is going on at Mercedes, it seems like the team are pulling together and making steps in the right direction. Do you think any of the other teams on the grid can challenge them for 3rd place now? Or are Mercedes going to comfortably win best of the rest this season? Let us know in the comment section down below. And on your way out of our pit box, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and hit that notification bell to be sure you don't miss out on any of our content. Till we see you next time, drive safe and bye-bye.